GM We Do a Little fam, our season 3 mint is live and we need your support more than ever to keep the IRL podcast vibes going. We have a $5 based edition minting on Base Chain by Coinbase for the entirety of this season. Each $5 base NFT allows you to burn one for an art piece based off the conversations we've had with our guests. 12 based NFTs are needed to collect a full set. There are also 15 premium NFTs at 1 ETH each. Each premium NFT owner is invited to one of our We Do a Little dinners. The next dinner will be during Art Basel, Miami in December 2023, and NFT LA and NFT NYC in early 2024. Premium owners and guests of the pod come to the dinner. It's 25 to 30 of us, and we just have a great time all night hanging out together. We're giving away one of these premium NFTs to a random YouTube subscriber once we cross 1,000 subs or the season end, whichever comes first. So be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And without further ado, let's jump into this week's episode. In our third episode of season 3, we are joined by the ethereal and supernatural Summer Wagner. Summer is a photographer from Rockford, Illinois. Her work contemplates the spiritual and psychological threads of everyday life in the blur of poetry that is our society's collective dreamscape. We dive into Summer's background growing up in Rockford and Los Angeles, trinket collecting habits, inspirations behind her work, guilty pleasures, and so much more. As always, this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. Andy's, D's, and guests may own NFTs discussed.
This is Andy.
Yeah, I'm D's. All right, GM, everybody. We are back once again with another episode of We Do a Little Pod. This time we're joined today by Summer Wagner. Summer is one of my favorite artists in the world, and I'm just glad you're here and we can finally get this going. Summer, how are you doing? It's like 10 a.m. on a Saturday after a week of partying, just to set the stage for everybody. Yeah. We might be a little hungover. I know I am. I won't speak for anybody else, but how are you doing?
Had some wine
this
last
fine
night.
morning?
Oh, man, I'm doing good. GM, thank you for having me. So excited to be here. We've been talking about it for quite a long time.
Yes, and then it was funny because you messaged me and you're like, I never responded. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you did somewhere. Like, we talked on video or like in another chat.
There was an
like...
unspoken commitment or maybe spoken that
and
this
that's
would happen. Yeah.
So.
But doing good, man. Yeah, it has been crazy. I am proving my human capacities this week by like being so exhausted and so hungover.
Yes.
Every day, and yet somehow still showing up.
That's all it takes. It's just
talking.
gotta show up.
You just
every
have to
day,
show
you know?
up. That's
Yeah.
like so much of what the NFT week is.
Straight up, just showing up.
Put your body there. Like you mentally sometimes are just maybe not even there, but you're like, fuck it, I'm here. Then you get messages from people who are like, hey, I met you. It was nice. And I'm like,
I met you?
sick.
Yeah. Oh my God. But I will say, there was one night where I like just mixed the wrong drinks, you know?
What were they?
And
do you remember?
Oh, I remember. Yeah. Because here's the thing. It was only 3 drinks. This is like sad news for Summer.
Yeah.
But the first drink was a vodka ginger beer mixed drink.
Okay.
And I don't usually do vodka because for whatever reason, it just like makes me sick. But I was like really drawn to the list of
ginger beer is
ingredients.
tasty.
Yeah. But it was so strong and so sweet. And it just absolutely fucked me up. And like I was like feeling fine and it was all good. But then I had like, I don't know, like an IPA or something.
Yeah.
Just some poor choice.
Oh, beer.
Afterwards. And then another one. And then like the next morning I was just disgusting. It was bad. But I made it through. And I had a really important day that next day too. So I was like,
it's always that.
Yeah.
they were like, come on, you know? But I made it through. I did have some very painfully awkward interactions though.
Yeah.
Of just kind of like not being able to form a comprehensive social interaction. But I redeemed myself later on in the week. So
But you have so many of those interactions, just like shooting a basketball. It's
I
like,
mean,
oh,
yeah,
I
you're
missed
a
that shot. Like,
Yeah.
bricked it.
Exactly.
Like, oh, that was an air ball.
But
Like,
also, you're at an NFT conference. Like, but what you're getting back on the other side isn't always so great either. Like,
Oh,
it's
my
a lot of
God.
awkward
a
people.
lot of air balls.
Yeah, it's a lot of shots and misses.
You're like trying to just run the clock out so you can get off the court and get on to the next game.
Literally.
But like you're just airballing there, airballing.
And you know what? I have to say, I have had the same conversation probably 50 to 100 times this week.
Yeah, you won't have that here, I promise you.
Yeah. Oh, I know I won't.
Wait, so what's the conversation? You sound like it was something more than just...
It was just the small talk.
Oh,
just
yeah.
the small talk of like, oh my God, hi. It's like, oh my God, hi, I'm this. Oh my God, hi, I'm this. And then we're all like, okay, I don't really recognize you. Let me pull up my Twitter. And then we look at the Twitter. I still don't recognize you. But I
They
go,
don't follow
oh my
you.
God.
Oh, of course.
Of course. And then
Yeah.
it's, how long are you in New York for? And I'm in New York till this day. Oh, that's really cool. Where are you from? You know, just
Yeah.
the same.
Did you guys ever watch Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Yes.
There was one of my great show. I'd highly recommend it. I'm sure you've heard that before, but there's one scene where Larry David's like walking down the street and one of his friends like stops him to say what's up. And he's like, I don't do stop and chats. And basically he was just like, I just don't want to have the small talk conversation that is like totally worthless. He's like,
so
I'm just not going to talk to you. Like, hello, I don't want to speak to you. And it just like keeps going.
I wish I had the
appreciate
audacity
that.
to tell
I know.
people that because I definitely need to. It's something I've thought about a lot with the pod. When you sit down with someone for 2 or 3 hours and talk, it feels like maybe if we would have spent 10 to upwards to like 50 hours at events, getting to know you, like between 30 minutes at a place in Miami and 2 hours at a dinner where you're sitting 3 feet away, like 3 people away, like you don't really get to have these long form conversations with people, especially without their phone. For me, I'm like sadly always on the fucking phone, and like this is an excuse to put it away. But I feel like the amount of time, like this, 2 hours or whatever, goes so much further than like 10 hours plus at events or groups where it's like you don't really get to, you're yelling over the loud music and you're losing your voice.
And you're getting interrupted every 5 minutes.
People are coming up to you because like you're doxxed. People know you're like, oh fuck, Summer, and then you're like just probably maybe having one good conversation finally for like 10 minutes that you're enjoying, and then somebody you don't fucking know just comes up and they're like,
hello. Yeah, dude.
and then you just have this look on your face. It's like death/panic, but then you need to sculpt your face in a way that doesn't look like you just saw your mom die or something, and you're just like,
oh my God.
sorry, I feel your pain.
It's pretty crazy, and I feel like last year I was like a little less, like my face was a little bit less familiar, so it was like kind of easier for me to hop into a longer conversation or like whatever, have time. And this time it's been like, I know so many more people because I've been around longer, and it's like just craziness, which is why I've enjoyed the smaller little things like this, or like going to a friend's spot, or even I'm staying with some cool people and like spending time with them. Even on the train, we were talking about it.
That's what we're talking about. Yeah, you have a place out in the boondocks, and you are taking a train for a good amount of time to soak up the culture and the vibes.
Yeah, just it's a real culture project to like be on the train.
What's been the most memorable experience on the train so far?
Okay, I mean, a guy yesterday like just casually put his legs like in the top rafter thing.
Oh, it was one of the dancers?
He wasn't a dancer.
Oh, he was just chilling?
Yeah. He just like put his legs like this. Like, I don't know, just like opposite directions in the rafters, and then was just like hanging there, like as if it was for his back. And we were all like, we had been standing for freaking 16 hours. So we were all like, oh, bro, maybe we should
he's
get
onto
up there.
something.
Yeah,
Let's try.
We should get up there and hang for a little bit.
Yeah.
So he's just like stretching out back, suspended by his legs.
Yeah.
Did he just like one leg after the other? And then he was up there?
Yeah, he like took his arms, grabbed the poles, has up, a good core strength, pulls his legs up, and then, it's like a small distance between the like poles and the top.
Yeah.
So he really like took a minute to like
He must have
get
really good
his
hip
foot
mobility.
Like, yeah.
There's no way I'm getting in that position.
No.
Unless
I couldn't
somebody-
even pull my legs up to
No.
the ceiling, let alone the next
bend
part.
it to like get it.
Get
No.
it in there and do it
Yeah.
like one at a time, like really. And then, you have to be secure because the train's moving around.
Yeah.
And I did not feel like this guy was going to fall. He was secure.
Dialed
He was
in.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you see some funny shit on the trains. It's funny. Like I saw Boona tweet out like a video of the like guys who dance on the subway, and he was like, "Oh, I love this city," and that was so funny to me because as someone who lives in New York, there's like few things you hate more than when the dancers come on the subway,
Right.
Because you're like, "Oh my god, I gotta fucking listen to this music now."
Yeah.
They're gonna come around and ask me for money. Just avert your eyes. Don't look at the.
Right.
And so it's always funny.
Follow procedure.
Yeah, it's like, oh fuck, not again.
Yeah.
Subways are a weird place though.
They are weird. I took the train every day when I lived in LA.
Mhm.
And like obviously it's a very different experience because much fewer people
Yeah.
take the train in LA. But it's kind of same experience when the dancers came out. It was just kind of like, bro, I'm on the train. Please just leave me to be in my misery.
Yeah.
Like going to work right now.
How long were you in LA for?
So I lived in North Orange County, South LA County,
Okay.
collectively for 10 years.
Oh wow.
So my family moved out there when I was 12. And then I lived there through till I was done with college, so to 22. So, yeah.
And then you're back in.
Now I'm back in Illinois, Rockford, Illinois.
What made you go back?
Well, my family moved back.
Oh, okay.
And then COVID.
Yeah.
Like I was finishing my last semester at school, and COVID happened, and they were like, "Get off campus in 3 days." Period.
Were you at a
Like-
big school?
No, not a big school. It was a small private school, but all the international students, obviously they didn't have a place to go, so they made all of the housing for the international students, and then everybody else, it was like, you're gonna have to go home. And so for me, it was like, find a place in LA in the next 3 days or go to Illinois. And so I ended up in Illinois. And
Probably not that bad of a vibe.
no, it
All
was
things
so nice. Like being able to not be in a small apartment, for however many months we were like really seriously
Yeah.
quarantined.
So for your first 12 years of life before LA, were you in Rockford the whole time?
Mostly Rockford, yeah. Briefly Colorado Springs, but mostly Rockford.
And how would you like describe Rockford for people who have never been there? 'Cause I've
Yeah.
never been there.
Rockford is a small city in the Midwest. It's a post-industrial town. So like kind of comparable to like Milwaukee, Detroit, but like a lot smaller. I think population is like around, I'm going to be so wrong when I say this. I should not give a number.
Give a guess and
It's like-
I'll look it up.
We like doing that where we just randomly guess and then we pull out the phone.
I feel like population is around maybe like 160,000 people.
Okay.
It's either 160,000 or 300,000.
It's
I
pretty
don't
big.
know. No.
I mean, it's big.
It's like
Ish.
a big-ish, yeah.
But not like...
What I'm getting from the 2020 census was 148,000.
Okay, so I was right the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you can imagine like the industry boom that kind of lasted until the 80s.
Yeah.
And then kind of,
Is it on
Dip.
a river?
yeah,
Yeah,
there's like
yeah.
a couple of rivers. But the Rock River.
That's huge.
Well, it's like Youngstown. It's like
Yeah.
my local post-industrial shithole.
What was that?
Where I grew up in Youngstown.
Oh,
It's
okay.
on a river. Steel mills are all abandoned.
Exactly.
All the trains are abandoned. You
Mm-hmm.
can just go graffiti up whatever you want. And a lot of bridges are not functional anymore, but kids
Mm.
go fuck around in them. And the river's polluted to shit because people just dump chemicals and shit and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like,
America.
what happened? And like everybody is just like the local dive bar, chain smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
Like everyone over the age of 50 is just like, we're gonna slowly kill ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. And like hoard in like our giant houses because property is so affordable and just collect random junk.
That's the beautiful thing about the Midwest. It's just like
It's just garbage.
No, you can just get such a big house and fill it with whatever you want.
Whatever you want. So much
like,
knickknacks.
It's completely normal. Like you walk in a nice house and it's just like, oh, this person like dolls. Yeah. It's just like 1,000 dolls in every room, like going up the stairs, going into the bedroom.
Yeah.
You can really be a serious collector.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
For physical art collectors, like go to the Midwest.
Which I have like met even recently a few people who like, I'm thinking of one guy in particular. I just met him right before I came here, who like bought a old factory building. Is like an artist and bought it in the 80s for like nothing. It had to have been like 20 grand or something like that, and it's really big. And then over the years has slowly converted it into like a gorgeous studio and home and like beautiful art everywhere, and is a collector of like physical pieces. And I was like, maybe I should just do that, you know? Like have a spot that's so affordable in the Midwest and fill it with all of my knickknacks and all of my...
What would be your knickknacks of choice? What kind of trinkets are you collecting in your dream studio?
I'm already...
Space is not an object.
I've done some collecting of trinkets already.
Oh.
I got lots of rocks.
Oh,
like
nice. Are these rocks you're like finding on the floor?
No. Like
Okay.
I'm like curating like a spiritual little rock collection.
Okay.
Like I just basically pick out the pretty ones.
Okay.
And also like I collect bones that I find outside, and I'll bleach them and make things out of them.
What's the coolest bone?
The coolest bone I found?
Yeah.
I mean, I found like full deers before, which is really cool. Found foxes, coyotes. But I think my favorite bone that I have right now is like the jawbone of a deer, and it's just like it cleaned up really nice, so it looks really good and crisp, and I've actually taken some pictures with it.
Nice.
And then when you hold it in your hand, it's just got this really satisfying like shape and weight and feeling to it. So it's probably my favorite bone. But I've also made a wind chime with some bones, and the bones themselves are kind of not that interesting, but I do like the fact that I made something fun out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You're repurposing this material that was otherwise just gonna like maybe sit there and become a fossil over millions of years or rot, or maybe like a feral dog just comes and chews on it or something. But like,
yeah, the coyotes, I think, or the rats sometimes will like gnaw on the bones to sharpen their teeth.
fucking coyotes.
I know.
Are coyotes are they a problem out in your way?
I guess I don't really know, because I don't have anything to protect from coyotes. Like maybe if I had chickens or something.
Yeah, that's where we ran into the problem. Like we had a dozen chickens growing up out in the boonies. My dad would shoot coyotes, fuck up the chickens, and there'd be like groundhogs and stuff that would try to fuck up the chicken coop.
Those chickens, that's why you get a rooster, so that the rooster can be daddy rooster.
Some of the roosters are dickheads.
Oh, they're all assholes.
I remember my dad originally got some roosters, and then I think after they like fully grew to be roosters, like we didn't have them for more than a year or two. He had the other female chickens, the hens, for 6+ years, but those roosters, they came and gone. They were like, no, get the fuck out.
Yeah,
of here.
get out.
And you don't need the roosters for like the hens to lay eggs and all that.
No,
sort of stuff,
no,
right?
you only really, I think, need the rooster if you want more chickens. Like,
Right.
if you want the eggs to hatch.
Yeah.
But we're eating the eggs like for food, so
Yeah.
we don't really, I don't think, want the rooster to.
Did you guys ever think about the fact that eggs are chicken, period? Like menstruation?
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
But
that's what they are.
that makes sense. Yeah.
I mean, the way that like nature works is wild.
Yeah, it is.
Like the
crazy.
fact that like we eat that on a bagel
Yeah.
with cheese. It's like we got the cheese from fucking like cow shit, and then we put that on.
Yeah, it's cow breast milk and
Literally, and then the chicken menstruation.
And then we're like, let's get some of that like pickled hot pepper stuff, and then put on a fucking bagel. We just like.
Yeah,
was
this is
like-
where society has led us, and it is kind of crazy.
And like we've bastardized it to the form of like a McMuffin at McDonald's. So the sausage McMuffin is just like pork and all this other shit ground up.
We don't even know what's in there.
And it's just like, yeah, it's $2.99.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy how like alienated we are from our food sources too.
Mm-hmm.
You ever think about like homesteading or anything? Like just saying fuck it and
Oh, for sure. I've worked on an organic farm, and it was like honestly one of my favorite jobs that I've ever had. Like it was really beautiful.
what did you like learn on the organic farm, or what values did you take away from that?
I mean, I think I just learned a lot just about how like growing shit works, and there's like just really small things that, you know, you take away from, you know, the seasons and the cycles, and when the tomatoes are ready to be picked, and when things are ready to be moved from one place to the next. It's a lot of work. Farming is a lot of work, and I'm like, that was also a good thing to learn and to like understand that like people are putting a lot of labor into like producing a tomato, you know, or a daikon or whatever you're growing. But then also just like I learned how to mushroom forage.
Well, that's cool.
The farmer who I worked with was a totally wild guy, and he would send me off to go forage for wild mushrooms in the forest, and so that was kind of fun, learning when and how to like find the right mushrooms.
Did you have to learn like which ones are poisonous? And
I mean, I was really only looking
right.
for like very easily identifiable, but yeah, we had looked for I forget.
I was always scared as a kid to like eat a wild mushroom. Like I don't know who put it in my head,
Right.
but like if you eat it, you could die.
Oh,
See, I
for
was
sure.
one of those kids who just like eat anything that looked edible that I would find. You find like
Really?
a random berry or something, I don't know, like I'll try it. Yeah, why not? I used to
Man.
eat dirt when I was like really little.
What?
Yeah, when I was like really little, there like underneath like my family's front porch, I would like crawl under there and just like hang out.
And like just eat dirt.
Yeah,
I love knowing that about
I was
you.
fucked up. I don't know. Like,
I bet you have very strong bones from all of the minerals that you consumed. as a
you know, I
child.
haven't broken too many bones in my life, so
There you go.
yeah, we'll attribute it to the dirt.
Yeah.
He was
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
under the porch, just mouth full
Mouth
of dirt,
full. Yeah.
spitting out the rock.
Yeah, it's like 5-year-old Andy's just having a good time. He's hanging.
Aw.
I was deathly scared. I don't know who told it to me, but like berries, I was like, I could die. Like if I eat the wrong berry, it's poisonous. It's over.
So
Yeah.
were you like generally afraid of a lot of outdoor stuff as a kid, or was it just eating berries?
No, I was like climbing trees
Okay.
and going in the forest,
Yeah.
fucking around and like riding 4-wheelers and dirt bikes and stuff.
Yeah, so
But
it was just
I wasn't
Eating stuff.
putting things in my mouth
Yeah.
or like on my body.
Yeah.
Like
Fair enough.
that was always, and I wasn't going in water. My family had drilled into me that like our rivers are polluted, the ponds have a fucking whole ecosystem. You're gonna get an ear infection at the minimum if you like dive into any of this water. So those were kind of my two red flags as a kid. Was like, oh, I can't eat any of this shit,
And you can't go in the
and I
water.
can't go in the water.
Yeah.
But then other than that, I was pretty much like,
The river where we grew up is fucking rancid. Like
It's just
you,
brown.
You
It's
can't
like-
even like look at it the wrong way. But also you like find dead bodies in it and shit. So it's like
Oh,
not
yeah.
what you were. I remember one time it was like right next to our middle school, and so like my hometown growing up was like pretty safe and fine. But then like literally the town right next to us across the river, it's called Patterson. Like it was not like a safe place. Like it was not where I'd want to go walk around at night. And there's like one time where like the town pool was right next to the middle school, which was close to the river, and we're at the town pool, and all of a sudden there's like all these helicopters flying over us. And we go up to the lifeguard, and we're like, "What's going on over there?" And they're like, "Oh, they found a dead body."
Oh,
it was
my
like
God.
like washed up right next to the middle school. So,
Huh?
yeah, we did
Yeah.
not go in our water.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you didn't say you just randomly stumbled upon a human bone. It's good that it's
Yeah.
all been animals.
Yeah.
Well, so far that you know,
that I know of. Yeah.
Well,
or that she's willing to tell us.
I mean,
When I was little and I would find bones, I think just to like make things more dramatic in my head, I would be like, it could be human. We'll have to go ask the police. Like, And it was never a human bone.
Never.
Which, thank God, that
Yeah.
would have sucked. But I guess I wanted the excitement of discovering
Like-
a murder.
I mean, maybe it wasn't a murder. Maybe it was something more.
Wholesome?
Maybe it was like suicide.
Yeah, I don't know. Wholesome. So where I was going.
Maybe something more wholesome like suicide. Y'all.
Well, and, going in
Sorry, that was
another,
fucked up.
going in another different direction. When did you first pick up a camera?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Actually, when did I first pick up a camera? It was in high school when I was needing to apply to college, and I needed to create a video for getting into the film program. So I made this I just had a camera that I don't even know where I got it from, and I made this super moody, angsty, like I just had my friend like smoking a cigarette. She's like 16 fucking years old. It was a fake cigarette. And like she punched a mirror, and it was to a James Blake song, and it was about her and her child self, blah blah blah. I made it into film school and then didn't touch a camera really until COVID, a year into COVID. I loved studying film, but I was doing mostly directing, and like with the directing side of things came a lot of learning how to do production management and like all of the more logistical things. And I had a cinematographer who I worked with throughout my time there. And then, COVID happened and my ass got bumped to the Midwest. And I was working at a grocery store pretty much the whole time. Like, I had gotten a job. I just needed a job, so I was in this.
Not a ton of directing gigs in the Midwest. Out in, Rockford.
Not during COVID and not in general. But I was really needing a creative outlet, so my friend lent me her camera, and I just really started to take pictures. I did like family portraits and like portraits for people just to have pictures of themselves and stuff, and I would like give them their pictures and their whole family would look orange because my editing has always been crazy, and they'd be like, "Oh my God, this is so beautiful, thank you." And I would be like, "You're welcome. Don't you love the edit?" And they'd be like, "Uh-huh, can you just send me the raw JPEGs, please?" But
This looks a little spooky, and like I feel like you're foreshadowing my family might die.
Exactly.
Like I can definitely see the vibe where they look at it and
Like, why did you give us the shot where none of us are smiling? And none of my
Wait, where
children-
did these bones come from?
you just added bones.
I'm like, can you hold this skull, please? Okay. And can you wear this small Victorian dress that I...
No, trust me, it'll come out great.
Yeah.
So how you quickly, I feel like, developed a very unique style that sticks out, but you were using, I'm assuming my jokes were from the assumption that style was coming through some of the photos for the families.
Yeah. I mean, the family stuff, it was like, it gave me a chance to, I was charging like literally $75 for family sessions because I needed the practice and I wanted to like quit my grocery store job and like, I was just kind of like manically and completely naively like, I'm going to be a photographer now. And like, just like saved my ass off for like 6 months, bought a nice camera and was just like, I guess I'm going to go be a family and like portrait and like wedding photographer just to like do something different than the 9 to 5 being in a grocery store thing. And so doing the family stuff, I think that's like where my editing, like where it really was like taking the time to edit hundreds, thousands of pictures sometimes. And like it became an excuse to be creative in the editing process. And like, that's where I kind of started to like, okay, I'm having fun now, like in this editing process. And I can see myself creating more like interesting and narrative pieces, and then I would shoot with my friends and like take kind of what I was learning in the family sessions and portrait sessions and bringing that into the edit for my own fun, just like dreams shit. Like, I don't know, just shit that I was doing for fun.
And then is the shit that you were doing for fun, is that kind of like how your first NFTs came out? Or how was the transition from like, I'm doing
family
this for
photographer,
fun,
Right.
to like, you know, maybe up to like when Tangled Thread or the collection came out. Like, I feel like that was when I really got to know you and we connected. But I'm curious, like, how that transitioned from I'm just having fun doing some editing to I just created this like very cohesive like masterpiece of a collection.
I had been shooting for maybe a year or a year and a half maybe when I like kind of started to get into like some fine art nude photography, or just like, you know, the body, exploring the body in nature. And I was posting that on Instagram, and because I had no following, the algorithm on Instagram was like immediately flagging even censored content. So I got like really hardcore shadow banned on Instagram, and somebody had recommended for me to hop onto Twitter and try posting work there. And they mentioned that the photography community on Twitter was like really awesome. So I was like, all right, whatever. I'll just try saying what's up on Twitter. I didn't know anybody. Like, seriously, nobody, not a single person, like no one. And I like remember it very clearly, like going on Twitter, following the photography stuff, and like just figuring it out, and like started playing around with posting my work and what it looked like. And it was amazing how quickly the community like just gave me a giant hug and like really like pulled me in. And it was pretty like life-changing to be part of a creative community like that. And very quickly my work like became better because of like that community, and like particularly talking to people who I had been admiring for years, photographers, and was able to have conversations with them. And like, which on Instagram, it's just not the right format to do that. You don't really have an opportunity to like talk to creatives who, you know, you don't have access to when you don't have a following. But
kind
Twitter,
of like slide into their DMs. You get put in the
exactly.
You get put in the undesirables pile, and then you have to hope that one day the all high and mighty person clicks on the undesirable pile and then filters your message out of whatever else is in there.
Literally. And then there's like, it's weird. There's like message requests I've learned. And then there's like literally another undesirable section. That's not
That's
even
like you're too disgusting to even see the message.
Yeah, what? And sometimes I'm like,
there's good
people
stuff
who I know. Yeah. Like, I'm like, what the hell? Like, how did this get filtered that way?
Yep.
Weird. But
you're making friends on Twitter, and you're able to actually like talk and not just show pictures.
Yes.
Fire emojis.
Exactly. And like started to kind of develop my eye a little bit more. It was also same period of time when I discovered the long exposure. And that really became like a huge me falling in love with like just telling stories in that way, and kind of developing my style a little bit more there. And then having my friend now, his name's Chadwick, just DM'd me, saw my work, and was like, you should make NFTs. And I was just very naive about, you know, crypto NFTs and stuff. I'd seen it on the timeline, but I was like, there's no way this guy is not scamming me. Like, I like didn't understand, you know what I mean? Like, why would you want me to make NFTs? Like, it seems like you want something.
Trying to scam.
Yeah.
What's he trying to get out of it?
Exactly. But
Surely he just doesn't like my art.
Exactly.
Want to buy it. Like,
which is what he did. He actually, it was when it cost hundreds of dollars to mint a piece, and he sent me Ethereum to mint a 24-piece collection, which was like pretty badass of him. And we traded a few pieces, and then he also bought I think, one piece as well, or two pieces, which was amazing. And that collection sold out in like a couple of months, and it was just like really completely life-changing for me because finances, like it was like,
You're like,
I was broke. Like,
I'm not taking family portraits
exactly.
for $75.
Exactly. Like,
holy shit.
oh my God. And like, I was just going through a hard time, and it was just crazy to be able to like have people appreciate my work in that way. And the rest is truly history.
Yeah, I mean, it was so after that first collection.
Sorry, I have one question that I'm less
No.
knowledgeable. When did you mint your first NFTs? Like, what?
It was October of 2021, I think.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Pretty early for like the photography scene and all that, yeah.
Yeah, it was like
feels that way.
It was like right after photography was kind of just being fully embraced in the NFT.
Yeah, it was like for me, I think that summer, like late July, early August, and then through there was like, hey, people collect photography, because like before that it was like Cactus, Vince, who would just like spend 1 to 25 ETH per piece, and it was like really hard to tell why he would buy some pieces for 25 or like 5, and it was just like, I think he just had a lot of ETH and wanted to support people.
Right.
Like he was the only person that was like really buying photography. And then like Justin Aversano got a bunch of us punk owners into Twin Flames, got lucky with that. Then we started talking to like Kath and Jay and a bunch of venture photographers, and then it was like, oh shit, there's these more like surreal conceptual photographers who are doing crazy shit. And then I was like, met Ben and Brooke.
Yeah, Ben was like really inspiring to me for a lot of different reasons. He was like, I remember the first interaction we had on Twitter was I asked him about curating, your own work. And I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was like really impactful for me. And it helped me learn how to whittle down. Like, I have 300 pictures that I think that I like, but like, shave it down to 24 because there's a story that's actually present in like putting the right kind of pieces together.
So for your like second collection that came out on Foundation, I think it came out in like June, May.
Yeah, maybe it was May
June
2022.
How did that come about? How did you select those? 'Cause I'm sure that you had hundreds of pictures there that may or may have not been like, I don't know, getting the advice from Ben and kind of realizing like, oh, there's like do a process here and like make this really tight. Like I feel like that collection was, I'm just super biased. Like, that was the collection that was like, holy shit. Like Summer's work isn't just like beautiful from an aesthetic standpoint, but like, you can really deeply connect with the themes, or I could, at least with the themes of the pieces I bought. And that was the first time I felt those feelings from like any type of photography work. Like it was more like I was into like the adventure stuff and the story behind that, but I didn't really get anything that like hit me with like childhood memories in a good or bad way, like your work did. So definitely curious as like how that collection came out.
Yeah. Well, by the time the in-between, which is that first collection, that process of creating that body of work and like putting it together was just lit a fire inside of me in terms of like, okay, narrative bodies of work and like creating things that are really cohesive. And at the same time, I was getting very into different camera techniques and doing like the long exposure and playing around with creating like really like magic like in the camera, like very intentionally. And I was also, I mean, on a personal level, just exploring some deeper kind of personal, I was just doing inner work, like, and going back to my childhood and trying to parse through the traumatic experiences or just the experiences that kind of formed me, and was thinking about these moments and what it meant in terms of who I am now and how time works and how these memories that we have that make us who we are become parodies in our minds. They're just like these plays that we play out, and they're not so accurate, 20 years later.
No. We played telephone with ourselves.
Exactly.
for 20 years.
Exactly. And so I had like the idea and started to put into practice, like creating these scenes, these parodies of like memories that I had or things that I've grown up with, or just like creating the mood of those things. And then living those moments out through a series of like 6 to 7 characters that all kind of tied together in this tangle of like a greater like narrative experience. And like the long exposure, you're capturing time all at once. And I think that that's like also an idea that I was really trying to present in the parody of A Tangled Thread, is the idea of like, we are as people, all of our experiences of time all at once. And the collection could be read like that way, as being all of these things are kind of happening all at once, and you can also read it in any direction. And so, yeah, I was just very inspired by the idea of creating a bigger body of work, making it something narrative that people can explore characters, explore the themes, and being just really intentional about the imagery and starting to build a world, like starting to build like what I like really want people to have an immersive experience with in like my work.
No, it's such a good way to put it. Like, I think of the time as like a lot of the characters are almost like ghost-like, and it like kind of represents time in a different way, where like you're thinking about it in your head. It's not real. It's like the ghost-like apparition of the game of telephone that you've played with yourself a bunch of different
exactly.
times.
Yeah, a lot of it can be like very haunting, not necessarily in like a Halloween spooky way, but like this feels like something that has happened but isn't necessarily happening right now, kind of.
Yeah. Like the long exposures to do magic. Like, how do you do magic like in the camera? Because that, I feel like, helps with some of the ghost like feel. But like technically, like, how does that work for us who are just like long exposure?
Yeah, I hear that word, I'm like, yeah, no, totally, like,
but definitely, like, what is that?
So a long exposure is just so you have a shutter on a camera, and the shutter opens to let light in, hit the sensor. The sensor is sensitive to light, so it's exposing an image. And usually, or like, maybe most of the time when you're taking a photograph, it's going to be a really fast shutter because it's so sensitive that it's going to capture the scene like really fast. If there's a lot of light. But when there's not a lot of light and you have dimmer settings, you can open your shutter for a very long period of time, maybe 30 seconds. People who do astral photography are doing it for sometimes hours. So I work probably between like when I do long exposures, between the 1 second to 30 second range. And you can paint with light if you create the right lighting situations, or you find the right lighting situations. You're able to kind of use the light in the space to create movement and create different figures or create different magical effects.
And is that by moving things while the exposure is happening?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Or by putting things in different places. But for the ghost stuff, yeah, I'll sit in the image. Let's say the exposure is 6 seconds. I'll sit in the image for like 3 seconds and then like slowly leave the image.
Then are you like slowly like this leaving, or are you like quickly? I guess like I'm in my head. I'm like,
get the fuck out now.
I'm like, do you need to be like slow and smooth, or do you need to be like bolt?
It's like, it depends on the exposure time. So if I'm doing like a 2 second one, it needs to be like, but I think of it because like all of the movement is going to be in some way or another seen. Not all of it, but like when you're there long enough, depending on the exposure time. And I'm taking interval shots, so it's like kind of constantly going. I really think about it like dancing. It's a lot like dancing because you want the trail that you have to look pretty. You know, you want it to look like you've just wafted into like the environment. So you kind of have to just waft into the environment. And it's a lot. It's why I do a lot of the modeling myself, because that is a difficult thing to do and explain, is like the very subtle dance-like thing that is kind of important to me in creating a cool ghost image.
I've never thought about that for like the modeling component of, well, now you don't need the model to just like sit there for a split second, but it's like, oh, they got to do the dance too.
Yeah, you have to find a literal dance, like somebody who can dance.
So how do you find models? I feel like some of the models I recognize, and then obviously I know you, but like, what's the general vibe for finding a model for a shoot or a collection?
For this first couple of years, it's been just people who I'm really close with, or letting people who I know feel comfortable in front of a camera and like, you know, are just down and like love the process. Close friends of mine, people who can express, who are my friends.
So they know you.
Yeah.
And it feels natural. It's not like you're just online, like, hey, I need a model.
Right.
Pay you whatever an hour. Because it just doesn't. It's not the same vibe.
It doesn't. And I think that it's like also for me, having like people who look like normal people is like a huge thing in my work that I find to be really important in expressing kind of this, you know, very familiar story. And so, yeah, my friends like just kind of have always been down to hop in there. But I will say, I am shooting in May and June a project where I've hired actors that I auditioned.
Oh, wow.
Oh. How has the audition process been? Or what have you learned during this?
It was really, really fun. I wanted to hire actors because models I think are like generally expected to like hold themselves in certain ways in like photography, and not all models, but like, you know,
in general, yeah.
In general, and I've worked with some models where it's kind of been difficult to get of something that feels really natural and like less staged. So I like use this site called Backstage, and I think I interviewed like 30 people maybe, and just had a quick audition with them where I asked them to kind of just sit on a chair and work through a series of emotions and just wear it on their face and in their posture. And from there, I casted 6 people who I am going to be telling a story with this spring.
Excited.
Yeah. I'm excited too.
That's very exciting.
My brain's... I won't ask too many questions. This will come out like in the summer.
Yeah, it actually might be decent timing there. When do you think you're actually going to... So if you're shooting it, you said May and June?
Yes.
How long is that process? So you shoot May and June, and then how much time are you spending after that to cut out what's good, what's bad, edit? Yeah, I guess there's a certain amount of unknown, but if you had to guess, how long does that take?
It kind of just depends on how much editing I have to do, but given the circumstances of it's going to be a smaller collection and like the shooting is much more planned out, so I'm guessing I'll be able to just kind of more quickly know which images I want because I'm planning the shoots more intentionally than just like going out and I'll do a lot of that too. But I'm going to guess August.
Nice.
In general, would you say most of your work is just going out, feeling it out versus the planning? Because
it's like a combination of both for sure. And I think it's important for me to do both. Like I need to not, if I get too in my head and like am so set on doing something really specific, I've found a lot of times it's like, it's too contrived. Like I will create like camp content that's like not good camp, but like, you know, too stiff. And so I really do like love just going out and like exploring and like capturing, trying new techniques and like different compositions and just playing. And then sometimes I'll find a story there. And then once I find the story, it'll be like, okay, now I know like how to go back and like plan it out and like get the things that I need to get to tell this story that I've just discovered while playing.
Do you normally just travel around Rockford, or do you make more like distant trips to I don't know like how the state park vibes are around Rockford or anything, but like
it's actually been termed or like named Forest City. There's like lots of forests around.
Well, that's convenient.
Yeah, it is. And so I do a lot of shooting in Rockford.
I feel like a lot of your work, I think of both the nostalgic indoor vibes, but then also like the greenery, the outdoors, the connecting with nature. So I was like, oh, do you have to like travel far to get there? But it sounds like no, you're pretty lucky.
No, yeah, it's like really feel very lucky to have like natural places very close by and also very private, you know, like I can get naked and go in the river if I want to, which is like huge because privacy during a shoot is like honestly for everybody's sake really important.
Do you normally have like, I don't even know logistically, do you have like someone looking out who's like, oh fuck, like a fisherman's coming over here or something? Or is it
sometimes I'll be shooting with friends and they'll just like keep an eye out for me.
Yeah.
But
I'd be so paranoid. I'm so like not comfortable in my skin. So like the idea of just like the forest is pretty quiet. I was thinking naked here. I'm like, whoa. I don't know. Like, what if the aliens are watching me? Or, like,
I saw a deer earlier, and it doesn't.
Yeah, there's like a crow up there. Like,
keep the deer wholesome.
Yeah, no, I always admire that about like your work and other people who are just like vulnerable in their own skin, because it takes like a lot of vulnerability to just be like, I'm in the water now.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like I've just kind of grown a thick skin about it. I don't really care anymore if people, I mean, yeah. It's just when I get very single track minded, and if I want to do something, I kind of won't care and I'll just do it. Although I have been taking a little bit of a step back from the nude work, but not for any reason other than I'm just moving on. I just have other interests.
How do you think about, like, you know, you're talking about how you try to really tell a story in these sets of pieces that you release. How do you think about like that composition of the story that you're telling, and like what makes you say, you know what, I need this taxidermy deer for this? Like, yeah, are you kind of finding stuff that you think is interesting and saying like, hey, this is like an interesting place or thing, and I want to take photos, and then constructing a narrative of what you think is interesting? Or are you constructing a narrative in your head and then finding the stuff that kind of like fits into it?
It's a good question because I think it changes each time. Like, for example, with the piece with the deer, I was just very inspired by the tarot, and tarot is an amazing storytelling tool. And like, there's so many, it's just the collective unconscious can be projected onto all of the cards. And I found that really cool. And the strength card is what that piece is loosely based off of. So I had the story in mind, and I wanted to. So the strength card traditionally has the lion on it with a woman in a white, beautiful dress taming the lion. And the idea is that strength can be gentle, and like you can tame the lion through a soft touch. And so I kind of wanted to flip that on its head a little bit and have the strength be depicted in like a woman who kind of had a little bit more of a grit to her and was doing something really hard, like making a choice about whether or not to kill a small deer is what's literally happening in the image. But I think it's more about like sometimes, you know, we have to do really, really difficult things for the better, even if it seems in the moment like it's a cruel thing to do or whatever. It ultimately might be a choice that you have to make, killing the inner child when that's necessary. I recently just learned that people pleasing is also called the fawn response. And I felt like that really just like nailed like kind of what the piece was about. And I had drawn this piece to answer your question further. I had drawn it in a book and like knew exactly what I wanted to say and knew exactly how I wanted to say it, with the deer, with the knife, in the prairie, with the goldenrod everywhere. But then other
There's just
times,
so much symbolism to it.
Yeah.
Like when you look at it, you're like, damn, that's nice. But like,
Then you look at it a little bit more and you're like, oh, yeah, there's a lot going on here.
yeah, I feel like that's just so much of
Yeah.
her work too. Like,
yeah, and the description, I've been doing one-of-ones in between collections, I've really enjoyed like kind of throwing myself into the artwork via the description as well. That's been really fun. And that's one of my favorite ones that I've written, is for the strength card.
I feel like that's an underspoken thing that you do really well on top of just having a visual narrative. It's like you tell good stories written too, but then you also know when to just like let the art speak for itself. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's some advice I've seen you maybe give, where you tell people to like have less words when they're sharing their art and let the readers kind of, or the viewers kind of soak it up.
Oh yeah, for
Like-
sure. There's like definitely a balance to be had in being able to talk about something and like let people know where your heart's at and like really speak to your work well. And then also just being like, it's photography or it's fine art, and it's like you can just literally experience it with a word or with a phrase. And actually a lot of times that's way more powerful than like having a whole
Because then it
full
lets your
blown-
mind run and
Yeah.
your imagination. And
Mhm.
because everyone's going to interpret it
Kind
differently.
of go back further before going to like college. Were you creating digital art when you were in high school? Were you drawing? Were you creating anything like music or anything?
Yes, I
Creatively.
was a theater kid.
Oh, nice.
But I figure that's why you wanted to go to film school.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a theater kid. I also did dance for
Okay.
all of high school and was like, oh my God, you guys, I like need to find. I was in a dance program and we like choreographed our own shows, and like everybody's doing like beautiful jazz routines to like Rihanna and shit like that. I was so fucking weird, you guys. I was so weird. I literally, oh my God, this is so funny. I literally cut together like a 2-minute, like no music, just people talking about the Ebola crisis.
Like you were dancing to Rihanna and then you
You're
come out.
dancing to Ebola.
Literally Ebola. And then I had everybody wear white masks and white outfits and do like interpretive dance, like Butoh. And Butoh is like a dance theater that's like demented. Like, y'all, it's crazy. I really need to find this video
Yeah.
so that I
Find
can
it.
share
We'll put it on.
with
We'll put it on the pod. Yeah, 100%.
This is when you knew.
you. I didn't know. I had no idea. I was like, yeah, it's
art.
just art. Like,
So, you don't know what inspired you? Was that just like the meme of the time?
Yeah,
I
you're
was-
just like really into Ebola.
I was so into Ebola, bro. No, I was like, I was really like hit by the crisis, I guess, and wanted to tell that story.
Yeah, yeah. My next thinking is like a Coney 2012 interpretive
Literally,
something.
it had the same energy
Yeah.
for sure.
So when you go to film school, what kind like, and you said you were like basically studying to be a director. What kind of directors or like films were a lot of like your inspiration for that? And do you take inspiration from that stuff in your work still, or
Oh yeah.
yeah?
Yeah, definitely. In film school, I had gone to film school. I had been way more familiar and had really fallen in love with theater. I was like very inspired by like theater, more experimental stuff, you know, and was like really drawn to that. And film school is actually my second choice. I wanted to do theater, but ended up it just was like financially made more sense for me to go to this school. And I was like, they got a great film program. And so I didn't know anything about movies. Like the only movies I had really like experienced was, you know, the blockbusters and the ones that everybody knows. So I knew that it existed, but it was like a little harder for me to access, like the more art house film stuff. But when I eventually did, I was all like, I love fine art films. Like really had my pretentious film school moment. Like loved, I think one of the biggest directors that really stuck out to me is Wong Kar-wai. He's a Chinese director, and if you like look at his work, you can see me in that work, or you could see him in my work, because he does like this really cool slow shutter speed ghostly stuff. He's got these beautiful jewel tones that kind of just are all throughout his work, and then kind of these like discombobulated, like weird time bending stories that kind of both make a lot of sense and don't make a lot of sense at all. So,
Sounds familiar.
Wong Kar-wai I would recommend.
What's your favorite movie by them? If you're giving me one shot and I gotta grasp this creator and I'm gonna sit down with Mrs. D's.
Okay. I was literally just gonna say, sit down with Mrs. T's and watch In the Mood for Love.
In Mood for Love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So instead of watching Love is Blind tomorrow night, I'm gonna switch on this, and then it's just gonna be.
Oh, I do love Love is Blind though. Let me
same.
tell you.
Have you been watching this current season?
Yes.
Did you watch the finale that came out last night?
No. Don't tell me anything.
I won't say anything. My fiance and I sat down after dinner. We watched the finale. It was.
Is it crazy?
Drama. Oh yeah.
No.
There was. Well, so have you seen up until the finale?
I've seen up until where who is it? Like the first wedding.
Okay, yeah, they end right at the end. Yes. So yeah, so there's one more episode that's like an hour and a half that came out yesterday. And
it's all the weddings.
It's all the weddings. So it like starts just like right away they finish Kwame and Chelsea's wedding.
I know Kwame said no. Don't tell me if he does or not, but I feel like he must have.
Yeah, every time someone you have not watched
I watch it.
You watch it.
Yes. I'm not like
I'm sure you're not you're probably on Twitter or something.
Yeah, but like
every time he's asked a question, he just goes, you know.
Literally.
Yeah. People will be like, so man, you really gonna marry her? He doesn't say yes.
Maybe.
Yeah. Who knows? And there were like all these theories on TikTok that his family was paid actors and that he just wanted, like, I don't know, Allie, my fiance, is like super into it on TikTok at this point. And there's this whole theory online that he just really wanted to be on a Netflix reality.
Oh, for sure. 100%.
That's like how he was.
No,
I feel like.
Because he was seen in the background of Married at First Sight. Like they found him in like an old Married at First Sight. Really? Where he was like trying to be on that or something. And so people were like, he just wants to be on a show. And then like the way that he interacts with his family is so sus. Where he's like, yeah, my mom hates you. My dad loves it, but he's not in the show at all.
Right.
And like all of a sudden his, like in that last episode, his sister comes and she's like, oh my God, I love you so much. And it's like, who are you?
Right.
and so the theory was that these were all just paid actors that he paid to like pretend to be his family. Because like even when he goes to try on his suit, like he doesn't even invite a friend. It's just like another guy from the show.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. His like all the other guys invite their friends and he just invited some other guy from Love is Blind to come on.
So weird. Yeah, I feel like this season in particular is very like everybody just wants to be on TV.
Oh yeah,
that's the problem I have with it. Like I looked up.
I'm gonna try the soda now.
Get in there. There's some of these like Instagram accounts from people on these shows, and they have like 500,000, 1 million plus followers. Yeah. Like the fucking dude with no neck from 90 Day Fiance. Ed, I think his name is.
I don't know who we're talking about.
You know? Oh, you know. You've seen this guy. You've seen him.
Oh, this is really good.
Is it?
Yeah. Olipop, if you ever want to sponsor a podcast, hit us up. I'll drink this on the podcast.
Like, if you guys seen Ed.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I've seen this guy.
Like, this guy has a massive following, and he's just like a dickhead on TV, and he looks like a walking dickhead. And like,
guess.
I just like sometimes just hate society, and I'm like, we're blowing up Ed, and he's with like his third 20-year-old girlfriend from another fucking country, and it's like,
Honestly, is it that much different than crypto Twitter?
I don't know.
True.
Some parts of crypto Twitter
yeah.
are just like.
Are you a big reality TV fan, or is it just Love Is Blind?
I do love reality TV. I've watched through like a lot of Jersey Shore.
Classic.
Actually, maybe
Too much Jersey.
too much Jersey Shore.
Never too much.
I love Jersey Shore. I watch it with my friends.
Yeah.
We're big, like, get together, have some beers, watch reality TV, yell at the screen.
That's what we do too. We watched The Perfect Match. That was,
Oh,
did
yeah.
you watch that one?
I did watch Perfect Match.
That one was a really fun group watch.
Very fun.
It's a chaotic show. It's all
Lots of drama.
so it's all
That's like
people
Love
who have
Island
been
and shit.
so it's all people who have been on Netflix reality shows before. And the way that it works is they start out with 5 and 5,
Okay.
5 men and 5 women, and they're all in this house. And at the end of the night, everyone has to pick a partner, and they sleep in bed together. They're not like, for the most part, they're not like fucking that night or anything. Just like they have to sleep in bed together, and then like the next day or the day after, they're hanging out, they're doing like stupid challenges and shit. They get to go on a date, and then whoever like wins this challenge gets to choose 2 new people. Like it alternates between men and women. So like they could choose 2 new men who come into the house and send them on a date with 2 of the women. And then at the end of the night, they have to pick their match again, but there's 2 extra men at this point, and so the 2 people get sent home, and it's so much drama, and everyone's betraying each other, and
Betrayal, and everybody wants to be on TV, and it's just
Like their
It's
personalities over the top, and it's like how much of you is fake, like
all of it. But it's so entertaining.
it is so entertaining, and it's a good like looking at humanity and being like
I like Below Deck. Like that's
Deck.
one where you're like, number one, like who is wealthy enough that they'll spend like tens of thousands of dollars on a yacht trip, but then like also is
wanna
an
go on
asshole and egotistical enough to like want to film it and put it on a reality show. Like,
is that what that is? It's like showing off my yacht.
No, so
They
Below
rent-
Deck.
Yeah, I'll let you explain it. You've watched it
I've
more
seen
than I
every
have.
episode of Below Deck.
He's an expert.
But yeah, my that's like, so it's funny. We like my fiance and I go back and forth between watching like good TV and then just like total shit TV. And there's like not really like an in between. Like we're not gonna watch whatever like NBC sitcom is out,
Right.
but we'll either watch like really trashy reality TV or like we're watching Through the Americans again. So it's like really one side or the other. But Below Deck it's a reality TV show basically about the crew who work on super yachts. And so every season they follow one particular boat that does like a full season and like a full kind of like yacht season, which is about like 6 weeks or so. And so it's like 8 people who are all generally young, good looking, single people who are all working on this yacht. There's like a chef, there's like some people who work on the interior and like serve drinks and food. And then there's people who work on the exterior and they like, when you want to go ride the jet ski or do whatever, they do that. And then there's the captain. And so it's just them over the course of like these 6 weeks doing like 8 or 9 trips where people come for like 2 or 3 nights. And so they film the guests who are on the boat, but it's really about the crew who's working on the boat. But what I think makes it so interesting and why it's very, very entertaining is like in general, if you're someone who works on yachts all the time, you're probably like a little bit crazy. And you all are like working in really tight quarters and the job is like actually really demanding and stressful. And so you can't just like be a fake person who works on a yacht because it's also like not safe. And so all of these people actually do this for a living and like have like a history of it. You can't just be like, oh, I just like, obviously they want to be on TV, but you can't like the people who come on the show who just want to be on TV get fired.
Oh,
And
right.
people
right.
get fired on the show all the time.
Yeah.
if they're not good. And so it's like this actually high stress work environment where even after watching it for 10 seasons and they like turn over the cast all the time.
10 seasons.
Oh,
That's just for the main one. There's Below Deck.
What?
It's incredibly successful.
How have I never heard of this?
I
can't
didn't hear
recommend
about it till like we started doing the podcast last year, and he was.
I had like
talking
just
about
started it
it.
last year. So
And
it's like Below Deck.
Turned out, yeah, Mrs. Deezer watched a bunch, and I'm like,
yeah.
fuck, we're watching this now.
Yeah, so it's like Below Deck Mediterranean, Below Deck Down Under. There's Below Deck Sailing Yacht, which is in my opinion the best one if you wanted to just start with one. And now there's Below Deck Adventure where they do it up in like the Nordic area and they go like whitewater rafting and all this shit. But it's very entertaining. Every once in a while, there's like really weird shit. Like sometimes also the guests are like fucking crazy.
Like the guests are just assholes.
Some White Lotus shit.
Yeah, literally, in the most recent episode that we watched the other day, like the guy just very clearly was fucking his wife's best friend. Like his wife. So he
on TV.
Yeah, it was
Jesus.
crazy.
That's insane.
He has a wife and kids, and his wife did not come with him on this trip. All of his other friends brought their girlfriends, and then his wife's best friend was there, and she was like, "Oh, I'll sleep on the couch in your room with the main guy." And like all the crew were like, "Yeah, they're totally fucking. Like he's just here with his mistress." But like you're literally on television. Your wife is going to watch the show.
Right.
It was totally insane.
Wow.
And like there have been a couple celebrities who have been on, like no one like super famous, but like there have been celebrities on it who have been like total assholes, and you're like, oh my god, I can't believe that you would choose to be on this show and just be like a total asshole.
It's like because they still have to pay for the yacht. Like I'm sure.
So I think they get like a 50% discount.
Yeah,
but so it's still not cheap. You're probably paying $75,000 for 2 nights.
What?
To look like a dickhead on TV.
Staying on a super yacht is like crazy.
I
expensive.
would never.
No.
For
the yacht life is a different game. It's just like, well, yeah, like Allie and I were talking about it. We were like, there's just no world where I would ever spend $75,000 on a 3-day, 2-night vacation.
No.
On a boat.
On a boat.
Like you could, if you wanted to.
I better be like,
if I'm
in a
spending
UFO.
$75,000 on a vacation in general, like it's the most insane vacation of my life. I'm not just on a fucking boat.
Right.
Yeah.
On a jet ski. Like.
I would pay $75,000 to go to space for sure.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Like, but with aliens.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to.
You take some great content on space with it, with aliens in space.
Yeah.
I feel like. Yeah.
Everything would be really fun.
Speaking of that, I was wondering earlier, you said mostly in like Rockland. Do you have any particular places or like locations, whether local or just like around the world, where you were like, oh, I'd totally love to go and shoot some like really trippy stuff? Like I could totally see something like out in the desert or something like that. Do you have any other like places in mind that you've kind of have on your bucket list over time?
I did just go to Death Valley, so
there you go.
Yeah, that'd be fucking sick.
A few desert pics. I think I've posted most of my favorites, so they're out there. But I would definitely go back to the desert again, maybe with like a few more people to have like a few more models. And then I went to Alaska also in October. Why did I go in October?
Is it cold?
It was freezing. It was freezing and we couldn't even go anywhere.
Did you hang out with Connor?
I did.
Nice.
Honestly, and Connor and we had a great time. Overall, it was amazing. The stars is incredible. It's absolutely gorgeous there. I'd like to go.
I've heard amazing things. Never been.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the pod we did with Connor, it was like 30 minutes of just like, you all need to get your ass to Alaska. Like,
Yeah.
that was like the reoccurring vibe.
It's
like
really,
there's no light pollution and the nature's beautiful and
it's like crazy. The mountains like right on the ocean. Like it's just wild. But I want to go somewhere like Alaska or Finland or Sweden or Iceland where I can be during the summertime when it's like midsummer. So there's like twilight throughout the whole night. Because I love shooting in twilight, and I think that if I had the time, I could create a lot of really fun work. But, you know, blue hour, twilight only lasts for like maybe 25 minutes at most.
So it's always a race against the clock.
It's always a race against the clock. So it would be really cool to see what would happen if I didn't have to race.
Yeah.
So how do you normally set up for those like 25-minute periods? Like I know it's like, you're spending the whole day, if not multiple days, setting up for this one block of time. Like, are you in position half hour ahead of time?
Yeah. I usually try to get there like an hour before, and then like I'll look at the shot, figure out how I'm going to compose it, and then I'll set up my camera to where I can basically, it starts at the lightest settings, like when it's the most light outside, so I can get what I need to, and then I will slowly change the camera settings like over the course of maybe the first 20 minutes before, and I'll just keep taking test shots, And then once I know like it's about to happen and my settings have been like progressed to the right,
calibrated.
Yeah.
then I'll just like I'll just keep taking the same photo until it's too dark.
Mm-hmm.
So then you have like every shade of it basically from the very beginning to the very end, and then you can really dial in
exactly and figure out, you know, like which one works best, like given the environment and stuff like that, and all of that really like comes out in the edit too. Like,
do you normally immediately edit it like the next day after you get the shot, or that
I will
night,
that
like,
night I will go and I'll put the pictures in and I'll look at them and I'll start editing because I'm like really excited about it, you know, and I'm like ready to go and just get an idea. I can usually get an idea of whether or not I like the shot like that night. And then it'll take me months to like actually, I need to take breaks from looking at it because I always end up like doing the initial edit and then really work on it, and then I have an existential crisis, and it's like it doesn't look the way I want it to. I can't find the balance, I can't find the contrast. Take some time off, come back, and it's like, oh yeah, boop, and then you figure it out.
It's funny you say that. Like we were talking to Jubish Jay about waiting between taking the picture and like basically editing it, publishing it. And I was like, yeah, he's like, oh, wait like 6 months or a year.
Yeah.
And like come back to it, and it's like, oh, I know the feeling now. It's like, yeah, I have the raw, but it's like I want the feeling to be there. And it seems similar with you, where it's like you come back to it after some amount of time and the feeling is now like maybe concrete in your mind or firm, and you're just looking at it and you're like, I know exactly what it needs.
Exactly.
But the day of, it's just like so much, you just made so many decisions, you just did everything. It's like maybe you don't know exactly what it needs.
Oh, for sure. And yes, I sometimes will like be really hard on myself too. And I don't want to say that in a negative way. I'm just very like, I want it to be what I want it to be. So
that's good though. Like you want that.
Yeah. And so sometimes I'll look at it and I'll be like, this just isn't what I was going for. And then I take time off. And when I come back, I say, might not have been what I was going for, but here's how I'm going to make it into something.
Yeah, some new perspective.
Some new thing that's like really working for it. And like it actually is maybe expressing what I needed to at the time, even if it's not what I thought it was going to be.
No, that's just like something I keep seeing over and over again. It's like we talked to Jake Fried, and he's like making that piece for like a year, but it's like actively thinking about it. But it's like he didn't know when he sat down the first day what it would look like after a year. It's like a similar thing where like Jay was like, yeah, just hold on the picture on a hard drive and let it sit.
I think like
that time is just like, we go back to time and talk about how you experience everything all at once. And it's like similar, I think, with creating. Like you spend all the time from the day it was taken to the day that you make that edit, and it's all there all at once, and you're able to just somehow pull it out of the flow and put it into the picture.
Exactly. And like I had a conversation while I was here in New York. I was absolutely blessed by the gods to have been to a gallery opening, an exhibition opening for one of my favorite painters. And it just so happened that it was at the same time. So I went there. I think it was Thursday. No. What day is today? Yeah. No. Friday?
Today's Saturday. So was it yesterday?
No, it was Thursday.
Yeah.
And, I mean, his work is just incredible. His name is Aaron Weissenfeld. And, like, the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, my God. Like, this person and, like, is just, they and me, and it's just in the same dreamscape. And, you know, I had a chance to talk with him and meet him, which was amazing. And I asked him, or one of us who was there asked him about, you know, what's it like? Like, you have these giant paintings that clearly take hundreds, thousands of hours to, like, finish. Like, do you know exactly, like, what it's going to be, like, when you start? And he was really kind guy. I was just like, absolutely not. Like, it's literally just, you do have an idea. The sketches are there. But, like, at the end of it, you know, you're pulling shit out of wherever the hell you're pulling shit from. And, like, it's just, I think why things become way more complex than like what we've originally planned, is because we pull the ether into the work, and like pull our subconsciouses into the work, and like you just know, okay, I had this idea but it's missing something, and that time allows for you to really massage out like the idea and like find the things that are missing that you didn't realize were missing. And it's I think a lot of creatives, as much as we'd like to think, yeah, I had it all figured out, like I knew exactly what I wanted, and are really struggling from the time of like doing the thing from the beginning to the end to like figure out how to get it to where it needs to be, and are using intuition a lot of the time to make those choices.
Struggle and frustration is another theme that we've seen this week. It's just like, yeah, like 90% of creating art, if not more, is like you're pissed off and you're frustrated and you're struggling to get what you want out, and then the end is like cathartic because you're like, oh shit, like there it is,
thank God. Yeah, but it is hard. It's really hard.
How do you like mentally deal with it? Like, what are some of your favorite things to deal with the frustration and struggle?
Honestly, journaling. I do a lot of journaling, but not like so much dear diary today, blah 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 blah, but more like just free thinking, like writing. Using my hands is like a way to get me out of my head, and like I will write things down that I'm like, I'll go back to my journals and be honestly really inspired by myself, because like what comes out of my subconscious is so much more me, and like I forget that I have a relationship with myself that like is loving and stuff like that, and I can go and like find that in my journals a lot of the time. And it just helps me get out of my head and helps me get like my creative wheels turning. So journaling, but also just forcing myself to go out and shoot for no reason, you know, like not needing to create some big thing, but just like literally going to take a picture of a tree or like a flower or some shit, like just for
Lindy.
fun.
Just out there, Lindy walking around.
Exactly. Just taking a little picture. Or like editing, you know, I love editing. It's really, really fun for me and really relaxing. So.
No, journaling is something I go back and forth on. I'll like do gratitude journals for 3 months, and then I forget about it for 6 months, and I go back, and it's like, oh, I feel good doing this, and then like someday I just stop a few months in, but it's always there, and then I go back and like read like things I wrote 2018, and it's like, oh shit, like I'm still grateful for the same things. It's like I'm grateful for my wife, my family, my health, and now I'm grateful for all this wonderful stuff, but it's like still the same things.
Yeah.
And it's grounding. It's like, all right, like if all this goes to shit, like I was grateful for the same things I was grateful for before it turned into something that wasn't shit anyway.
Right. Yeah. And, you know, I'm not consistent either with the journal. You know, it's like, it is like a baseline. Like when I need it or I feel good enough to like have a moment of gratitude and return to it, it's like, it's always there. And it is cool. So cool to go back and read your journals. It's like that is honestly some of the biggest treat of journaling is like getting to go back and be like, ah, ha, ha, ha.
It's like you're talking to yourself.
Yeah.
I think you don't really get to do that too often. Or at least when you do, maybe you're lying to yourself as well.
Yeah.
Whereas like when you're journaling, it's like, no, like I didn't lie to myself. I wrote that. Whereas like maybe I'm lying to myself about like why I don't need to go work out and like why if I DoorDash this Chick-fil-A right now, it's worth it. But then I wrote down like, hey man, like you really care about your health and you don't want to do that.
Right.
I don't know. That was probably a weird example.
No, I
think that's like in my head, like something I've actually done. Where like I wrote down like, I want to take better care of myself. And like, a day later, I'm like, I want a frosted lemonade, spicy chicken deluxe,
waffle fries,
and a fruit cup. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite guilty pleasure?
Oh.
Besides reality TV.
Yeah. Besides reality TV.
We touched on reality TV.
The important stuff.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that encompasses all the guilty pleasures you need because they live it for us. But
man, reality TV is a guilty pleasure, but I don't really have that much guilt about it. I just like watching it. guilty pleasure. Okay, like I watch a lot of fantasy content
Oh, nice.
too. And like sometimes I watch really bad fantasy content and it's really relaxing for me and like I don't even care if it's bad.
Like, what are your favorites?
My favorites are probably, okay, let's see. Dota came to mind, the show. I think the animation is very beautiful and it's very fun to watch. I'm reading Game of Thrones right now.
Nice.
I've also watched the show. Also, House of the Dragon, so good.
What book are you on?
I'm on book 2.
Nice.
So I'm
Are
like,
you finding that it hits differently compared to the show?
oh yeah, it's actually for me a lot sadder than the show. Like a lot more tragic. The show is like, I didn't realize how sexy the show was. We all know it's sexy. But it's really sexy, like just even in the plot, like the way that they build the plot. And in Game of Thrones, it's just like a lot more like gritty, like the politics are just more like harder to swallow a little bit. And yeah.
Yeah, it's like I find in the books I really like how it's perspective based. You're like, oh, we're now in Bran's world. Oh, we're now in Ned Stark's world. Oh, we're now in Daenerys' world, and it kind of just like pops around.
Yeah.
But I feel like I felt more connected to the books. So I read them
Yeah.
in high school before the
Oh,
show was
sick.
out. And then the show came out and it was like good, but then you find yourself like I always feel like that's a thing where like the book readers are elitist and they're like, oh, like the show doesn't do the book justice. But
Yeah.
there's so much in the fucking book, like you
You
can't
just
put
can't.
it in a
There's
show.
so many beautiful details, like all of the mysteries too. There's like so many mysteries from the books that are missing from
Yeah,
from
they
the show.
condensed it, and
Yeah,
then, like,
you can never like fully flesh out everything that's in a book into a show or a movie.
but I think the books are much better. I'm biased.
I love the books. I hope he finishes them.
I am not hopeful. Like, I mean, I am not
Optimistic.
optimistic. I am hopeful, but like I would not bet money that he
Yeah.
finishes the books. And that's sad. Like
That
I
is
don't
so sad.
I
What
feel like I
other-
read them in 2008, 2009, 2010.
Yeah.
And it's like there's only been one that's come out
Yeah.
since. It's like it's not great.
What other fantasy novel stuff? Have you done other fantasy books or mostly?
Yeah. I didn't really get into fantasy until a few years ago, so I'm kind of catching up. But I read through Lord of the Rings, obviously.
Yeah, I have a Lord of the Rings tattoo. I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan.
Oh, yay. Yeah, love Lord of the Rings. Huge fan, honestly. And I read through Name of the Wind.
I was about to ask if you had read that one.
Yeah.
That's my like most recent favorite one. I really enjoy those.
I haven't read the second one,
It's good.
but yeah, I really loved the first one.
Yeah.
And I'm like waiting for the third one to come out before I start the second one so that I could read the first one again and then read the second one and then read the third one when it comes out simultaneously. But because there's going to be 3, right?
Yes, I
Yeah,
believe
okay.
so.
And then I read, this is my fantasy book journey since starting a few years ago. I read Dune,
Nice.
which I loved. Really liked Dune. And a lot of short stories, honestly. I couldn't probably name any of them,
We won't make you.
but thank you.
That's okay.
But I love sci-fi short stories. I still have to kind of dive into my sci-fi novel side of things, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
soon.
I like those like dystopian sci-fi ones that seem to have all been written between like the 20s and the 60s.
Like 1984.
Yeah, like a
and-
short story I think is like Harrison Bergeron, but like these like just like short things that are kind of nihilistic and
Yeah.
foreboding and
Yeah.
like you're kind of scary reading back like how true some of it is.
Oh my gosh.
But
yeah.
it shows you that we're all fucking humans that all have this like capacity for like, bureaucratic evil.
Yeah.
And, like eventually it just gets abstracted away so no one has any responsibility so they can be like the most evil bureaucrats they can, and it's like, oh, I'm just working for the state, I don't know.
And then we're all just forced to be
Cogs in a fucking machine.
exactly. Bro.
That stuff, like, and then you read like some of the HP Lovecraft stuff with like
Yeah.
more of the horror. It's more brutal.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Well, I'm here for it because it makes me feel seen in this godforsaken hellscape that we live in. Just kidding. Life is beautiful. Blah, blah, blah.
We're like very lucky, but then it's
Yeah.
also like we live in this weird world where we're always online, always connected. We're always frying our brains. We don't really like
Yeah,
a
I
break.
feel like
be bored. We don't really have association with like our day-to-day life. Like we're not
Mm-hmm.
tilling our own land and making our food or hunting it, and we're just like mindlessly consuming whatever. And
Yeah.
it's great.
I feel like that, I kind of found myself
you.
liking Stephen King a lot for like a lot of the same reasons, where a lot of his stuff is like, it feels real, but it isn't always like there's always something weird about it, and you can like get kind of to the level of sci-fi or like fantasy that you want based on what book you read from him.
I haven't read any Stephen King yet.
If you ever want recommendations, hit me up.
Okay,
He's
cool.
probably my favorite author. So I've read a lot. I mostly do audiobooks because I'm a very slow reader. I like to joke that I can't read. I can.
It's like a half joke.
Yeah.
I can't listen. Have a really bad auditory learning problem, and this is self-diagnosed. But I really cannot focus when I'm just hearing things, and I won't be able to like do an audiobook, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
So I recall things a lot better, I think, when I read them and like highlight them.
Oh yeah.
But audiobooks are just so much more convenient. You're like on the plane,
Right.
walking around. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
If
it's
I'm
funny.
multitasking, like hardcore, like if I'm cooking
Mm-hmm.
and I'm listening to a podcast, it can be done.
Yeah.
Driving, generally, sometimes I'll space out though while driving and listening. But most of the time, if I'm driving and listening, I'll be able to retain.
Yeah, for me, it's like the opposite. Like if I sit down and read a book, I'll be 10 pages in and then be like, I have literally no idea what I've read. Like, I have no recollection of what.
you're just
Yeah.
My
like
eyes
turning
just
the
off.
pages
Yeah.
at that point.
I'm just
you're
like
trying
going
to
through
pick
the
it up by
motions.
osmosis.
It's like, this
You're like
shit's
reading
crazy.
each word, but like
It's
as
not
your own
actually-
word.
Yeah. I think part of it is like I'm one of those fucked up people who like doesn't really have an inner monologue. And so I just have like a very hard time like visualizing what I'm reading and like saying it to myself in my head. And so like really not just not processing the words that
Right.
are on the
There's like
page.
no beautiful, magical, mystical, whimsical forest where there's
No.
like fucking dewy leaves and like caterpillars crawling around and fucking mushroom covered logs. It's just like a barren hellscape.
Barren hellscape.
Yeah.
And there's like a stick figure.
And all it is just words,
Yeah.
meaningless words.
No, I always felt like the inner monologue thing comes up all the time, and it's like I guess I have one, but like I don't really think about it. But when I read, I'm definitely like trying to put myself as like the Google drop yellow character like in the story. So I am consciously like looking around in my head, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Of, like, what do they see here? But I don't know.
Yeah, are you
that-
like able to build out like the scene kind of?
Yeah, I was like big on the Harry Potter and then like the Aragon series and then like Artemis Fowl and then Lemony Snicket series of unfortunate events. It's like I bought every single one when they came out. That was my shit. But I was always until I got video games, like a book nerd.
Yeah.
And then once I got video games, it was like, oh my god, they do it for you.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
See, I didn't grow up with video gaming at all.
God bless.
But I like know that I would love it if I somehow got an opportunity. I could just buy a console, I'm sure, and like try it.
You don't
out
want to
myself.
ruin your life though.
But yeah, I just don't have a practice of it, so I haven't. known
It basically
to-
now feels like I'm guilty when I'm playing games. I'm like, I could be doing like 5 other things I need to do right now, and I'm just like grinding this endless loop to like try
Yeah.
to shave a second off my best time. And
It's funny. I feel like that was something 'cause I also like grew up playing a lot of video games, and like when I was like 23 out of college playing a ton of games, and people are like, oh yeah, like once you get older, you like stop playing video games, and I was like, there's just no way. Like
Right.
I'm
there's
okay.
no way that I stop. Like this is what I do for fun.
Right.
But I definitely have the same thing where it's like it's so hard to like not be fully focused on it, and it can be so addicting. Where it's like when you do play, you're like, oh, I probably could be doing something better with my time.
Yeah.
Just the
I'm a very
curse of
all or
getting older and
nothing
being
person.
busy.
Yeah.
So like when I play a video game, I'm playing it 8 to 16 hours a day. I'm trying to get to the top of the leaderboard. I am
Right.
spending my time in bed on my phone watching Twitch streams of professionals in the game, like
Right.
trying to learn. or I'm not playing at all. There's like no like, oh, I got on for 2 games and like missed every fresh hook and still had fun. It's
Right.
like not a thing. It's like I went out there and sweat my ass off and like left it all in the court till my
Right.
wrist broke, or like I didn't play at all. And it's just been I'm like that with everything in life. It's like with this space, I'm just like 16 hours a day.
Right,
Like
here we
that's
are.
what I do. Like this is the game. And I don't have the ability to just be like, oh, 3 hours here, 2 hours there.
Right.
And that's the danger with the video game. Is like you just start replacing more fulfilling things in your life with this endless dopamine loop that feels really good.
For sure. I'm also that same way of like, I don't know what you obsessive personality. Like when you get into something, it's like
All in.
all in. You just start thinking about it constantly.
Yeah.
And like it really becomes like you building a network of like a paradigm based off of maybe that one thing.
And I've gone through different things in my life like that. Like I know how it feels like shift the focus too. So that's an interesting thing. Like there's a period where it was like DFS. It's like I go to class, I blew off my class, I'm sitting there reading and doing daily fantasy sports. And it was like, then there was the first time you start playing League of Legends. It was like, I'm going to be a pro at League of Legends. Like 3 years later, 4 years later, I'm not going to be a pro.
Right.
And then the crypto, it's like, this is the first
It's like
thing
that
I've
on
done.
steroids. Honestly.
This is the first one I've done for like multiple years and not put down. Like when I would grind RuneScape, it would be like a 9-month sprint, and then I would take like 6 months off and just not log in because I would be so burnt out. This has been the first thing where it's like, yeah, like every day I wake up and I do it, and it's not, oh, fucking burn out after 9 months or 6 months or 3 months. And that's kind of nice. Like it's kind of like a sign. It's like, oh, like I don't need to play the video games anymore because I found the thing that just lets me keep going.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I feel about photography. I feel like with the filmmaking stuff, truthfully,
Just do it forever.
by the end of my time making, or like in school, I was living in LA and I was like obsessive personality type. So I was like so determined to like figure out a way to like live in Los Angeles and like make it work. And I was about to shoot a music video for an 11-year-old kid. And like, I hope that you aren't listening to this. But I just wasn't I wasn't into the music. I was literally just doing this because I like needed to get paid, and like it was just gonna be a shit show grind that I would like totally get over in a matter of months. Because I had the obsessive personality, so I would have done it for like 16 hours a day, 20 hours a day. And then like I look back and I'm like, thank God COVID happened and like snapped me out of that like headspace, because I would have hated it. I would have ruined it for myself if I had done that. And with photography, it's like, yeah, there are times when I kind of burn myself out, but I always feel fulfilled going back, and it doesn't feel like something that's like draining me. You know what I mean? It feels like, and also the space. You know, sometimes I need a little break, but it's overall like a space that's like feeding my soul and like creating good soil for, you know, to grow in and stuff like that.
That's a good way to look at it.
And not every obsession has been that way for me. Some of them have been
Unhealthy.
unhealthy.
Yeah, this space can be unhealthy too, and this slower time has been nicer to just like, I don't need to pull up my phone and be like, oh my god, my Nakamigos are fucking, oh, I need to sell right now.
Right. Yeah. I am not even in that side of things.
I think it's probably for the best.
I don't do the trading and all that. I wish that I could, but I like am too uncoordinated online.
At least you know, it's important to know who you are. And like there are people who might think they are good traders. But like you're like, hey, I know that I'm not going to do that stuff. Like there are people who see other people do it and they're like, fuck it, like I can do this.
Right.
And then they like blow themselves up and then they learn.
Right,
like,
right.
And then other people blow themselves up and they're like, no, I'm going to figure this out. And then like they make it.
They make it happen.
And they do well. But
That's
like
great.
normally that trend of either people know who they are and they're like, no. So you haven't had any degen stories where you're just like 3 a.m. group of photographers, like, we're minting this fucking rowdy crocodile dungarees.
If it was crocodiles, it'd be crazy crocodiles. You gotta have the alliteration. You gotta have the alliteration.
Crazy crocodiles.
Yeah.
Yeah, the crazy, like, is there anything like that, or have you always just been like, I know I'm not that person, and
I've kind of always been like, I know I'm not that person.
that's impressive.
I also like, I am a very in-person type of a gal. Like, I really have a strong in-person community and that I like love. And none of them are like know what's going on in the space at all. Like, I'm very isolated in my work and in what I'm doing online. And I feel like if I did have like in-person friends who were into it, I would probably have a lot more fun, like learning about it and stuff like that. But, you know, we all have a limited amount of time, and like, I'm online all the time doing other things.
Yeah.
And then I have my friends and my family who I want to spend time with too. So it's kind of just also a capacity thing. Like, I literally don't have the capacity at this time to like,
I feel like it's really nice to have friends who aren't just also like 24/7 crypto people or like in the space. Like, it's something I feel like I meet a lot of, especially the younger people who are like into NFTs, who like all of their friends now are just all full-time NFT degen people, and like all they ever do is talk about crypto. And like, I just so much enjoy going and getting a beer with my friends and not at all thinking about any of this stuff. I feel like it's really healthy.
Yeah, I mean, it's always healthy, I think, to know that, you know, your world is big and like there's people who have no idea what's going on in your little pocket of the world. And it's just really grounding for me, I think, to have that group to like pull me out of mostly just like being on my phone.
Yeah.
Like, it's really easy for me to spend 16 hours on my phone or like whatever. Like,
and like,
just
you're kind of working.
Exactly.
You get that notification and it's like screen time, and you're like,
oh, interesting. That's interesting.
That's a lot of time. Huh? So are the friends and like the community that you have at home right now, are they people who you knew prior to moving to LA, or how, like, if you moved back right during COVID, how did you kind of make those friends? And
I tend to omit this fact because it's sheerly complicated. But I took a year off of school before my last semester of school.
okay.
Where I lived in Illinois and saved from my last semester of school because I was needing to like work and save some money. And so I met a lot of those friends during that year, and I just didn't know anybody in Illinois at all, like no one. And so I like formed a creative project and met a lot of people shooting a music video. I didn't shoot it myself. I had a guy who should film it for me. And that's how I met, honestly, like a lot of my friends. Plus I did community organizing with a group of people doing like solidarity economy stuff, cooperative housing, cooperative farming. And I met a lot of my friends also there, and my partner also there. I was like just wanting to learn about new things, farming, community organizing, and then just doing creative stuff helped me kind of build this community. Went back for that semester, got my ass back because of COVID, and we've just been really close ever since.
That's really cool.
Feels like a good place to meet people. Like, we're doing like cooperative, like
people
nice
who
things,
have similar interests.
Yeah.
who aren't just like, we're trying to like sell things to people online for lots of money.
Yeah.
It's like nice to have a balance.
Yeah, like, you know, a lot of us were donating our time and had like similar views on the world and felt compelled. Also, though, a lot of craziness in that space, though, too. We don't really do that anymore. That's a story for another day.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Deal.
Something I like about being pseudo-anonymous too. It's like I can hide behind. Do you think you could have ever been? I mean, you're like taking photos of yourself and very vulnerable, but do you ever think there was a world where like you were pseudo-anonymous, or you wish you were?
I wish that I did not know that people did that when I got on Twitter. And like nowadays, I do wish that I would have been pseudo anonymous. I wish I would have come up with a. I would still take pictures of myself, but maybe not tell people that, and like would have just
it's a
had
model.
maybe not my name as my brand or whatever.
Have you ever thought about like dropping your last name, like from not like in real life, like from how you like present yourself online? So I actually like somewhat have tried to do this personally, where I started out doing a lot more like with my full name, and then basically stopped using my last name. And I mean, I don't like hide my face at all. Like on this podcast, people will see my face, but like I'm not posting pictures of my face on Twitter consistently. Like most of the time when I go to things, people don't know who I am, even though they follow me on Twitter. And like, I do think that if you want to, you probably could at least like somewhat help it, but it's weird.
It's definitely, I think, harder too when you're like the subject of your own work.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
you've like shown
I
yourself
can, like, obfuscate
so
it a lot
many
more.
times
Yeah.
in the work. But
yeah,
there
and
is
now it's like I'm knee deep. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
and I do like my name. I like it.
it's a
I
great
like
name. It's the best season.
it.
Like,
Is,
like, I can't imagine it, my kid winter.
right?
Like,
That would be so sad for them.
like fuck. Like,
I think fall would be the worst one.
well, I like
though?
autumn. Like
Autumn is good.
Autumn works.
Fall would be bad.
fall. It's like, what's your name? Fall.
Fall.
Like, wait, Paul? No, fall.
No, fall is in like I'm on the floor. not fall.
Spring's a nice season. I don't think I've ever met a spring though.
I don't think I have. I think I've only ever met summers.
Yeah,
I've definitely met autumns,
I've definitely met autumns. I have met.
and I definitely know
winter.
people who are called winter, but I haven't met them.
I don't think I've ever met anyone but a summer.
Well, that's how, I don't know. Summer is the best season. So
Should
Okay.
we?
we have a question we ask everybody. It's very important.
Okay.
I use the answer to this question to make a thumbnail for the podcast episode.
Oh no. Okay.
So the question is, if you were going to write an autobiography, what would the title of it be?
And don't worry, we're not going to like hold you to this in 25 years when you're doing.
Yeah,
it.
when you're writing your autobiography,
forget.
we're not going to be like, well, Summer, we had a legally binding agreement on the podcast where you said it would be.
So your autobiography has to be named this.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. Like, it has to be true.
I
My-
think I want it to be something kind of like cheesy, like it was like written by, a live, laugh, love middle-aged woman.
I feel like that.
Like,
makes
I could
sense.
find it at, like, a Marshall's.
Exactly. In like
Like
the
one of
clearest
those
My mom would be
Discount.
super excited to hang it in the kitchen.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Like right above
Has
the
a
coffee
wine
machine.
glass on it.
Yeah, she like reads it every night before going to bed, but she doesn't actually read it. She's
Yeah.
just looking at the words.
She's like Andy, trying to.
Yeah.
Not processing a single thing.
not processing a single
Just having a
thing.
glass of wine.
Yeah, two, 3 glasses of wine. maybe.
There's like wine in the footer of every page, just like
Literally
a wine symbol,
ring.
just to remind you to drink when you go to the next page.
And the book is titled Tears of Summer, an autobiography on the tragic life of Summer Grace Wagner.
I love that.
I love that. That was
It's like
great.
kind of sad.
Yeah.
It's gonna be this overwhelming sadness.
Yeah. It's just wine and tears all over.
I'm
the book.
gonna have to make sure we get a nice like red. It's a red wine.
Oh, for sure.
100%.
It's,
100%
it's a
red.
red wine.
And it's also like a little bit too sweet.
Yeah.
Really? I'm thinking
I-
cab. This is like a dry, like
Okay.
drown
Like
my
each
sorrows out
sip
wine.
is like a little sting,
Yeah,
just
a
to
little,
remind you
All
that
right.
a
like
little sting and burn to burn away the darkness.
yeah, a little pain before the alcohol hits and you get the pleasure. I don't know. Someone might be chain smoking cigarettes around.
Her husband's out on the porch chain smoking.
Yeah.
Yeah, but thank you. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're really bad at wrapping up the pod. We
Uh-huh.
normally end with that question, and then we say like, "Is there any shout outs or things coming up?" But I know we talked about things coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
Uh,
have anything more to say.
Nice. You
Maybe-
leaked a little bit. I filed away some of it.
I did what? Oh, yeah.
Mixed-
I'm gonna be looking out for different emotions and different portrayals of emotions and
Yeah.
some of what these actors do.
We'll see what happens with the actors. I'm also working with a gaffer, somebody to help me light,
Ooh.
and also doing a little bit of video.
Ooh.
I like this evolution of you're going from more simple stuff to like pushing the envelope. Like, I noticed this in my favorite bands. Like, I would shout out Bring Me the Horizon, but they did this like whole live concert with like an orchestra and a choir, but it was like their own music. Like that's kind of how I feel like what you're doing here in a sense, where you're like leveling up, you're like trying out different variables and seeing like how could you push the envelope.
Just seeing what works. You know, my fear is that I'll overproduce because I think you can overproduce content and make it feel really like, you know, like stale and like not as organic. But also, you know, something brilliant can happen and you could really find like a groove with a group of people and create something really natural. And it's not like I'm hiring like crazy, you know, tens of hundreds of people, but I am excited to just give it a shot and see what happens.
I can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. This was great.
Yeah.
It's
Thank
been
you
a vibe.
guys. It's been so good and refreshing to talk
It's been
with just
the
a
best
few-
way to start a day.
Yeah.
It's like
Aw.
you come over,
Amen.
coffee, bagels, vibes, and then little phone, little blue light.
Little blue light action.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Yeah.
We'll wrap it up. Leave.